Welcome to Nurses Uncorked, where I pour out the unfiltered truth about healthcare life. I'm your host, Nurse Erica, serving up real talk straight from the front lines to your ears. Each episode, I'm uncorking conversations that matter to nurses everywhere, from the hilarious to the heartbreaking, the inspiring to the infuriating. No filters, just authentic nursing experience shared with a splash of humor and a dose of honesty. So grab your favorite beverage, put your feet up, I know they're tired, and join me as we uncork another episode of Healthcare Reality. Now let's get this shift started. Welcome back to another episode of Nurses Uncorked. Today I am joined with Anyssa Zancanella, the mother of 5-year-old Azaylee, who was born with severe complications, allegedly due to medical negligence. In October of 2019, at 39 weeks pregnant, she and her husband decided to take one last vacation before the baby came, traveled to Salt Lake City, Utah, which was a short drive from where they live, but as fate would have it, ended up going into labor and were admitted to Steward Health, Jordan Valley Medical Center, Utah. Through a course of events, which we will get into, baby Azaylee was born eventually with complications, including metabolic acidosis, oxygen deprivation, and was ultimately life-flighted out. Now suffers with permanent disabilities. Very recently, on August 29th, the family was awarded a record $951 million, making it the largest medical malpractice payout in state history and one of the largest anywhere. The case has really captivated the public's attention, but it has also been criticized by some. You may have seen a video I recently did about it. This is straight out of the headlines. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here, Anyssa.
Thank you. I appreciate being here and reaching out.
I know this is not an easy story for you to tell or constantly relive. And so I thank you, for having the courage and transparency to do that.
Thank you.
So let's just start with, how is she now? What's the status of her permanent disabilities? I know there's a seizure disorder.
Yes. So currently, she's in kindergarten. This is her first year in a school setting. She's on an IEP and she's only able to go attend for 3 hours a day just due to her behavior, her overstimulation. She just can't be in a new area for very long. She requires constant care just to assist any task throughout the day. She has to have assistance. She's unable to clothe her, get herself dressed. She's unable to brush her teeth appropriately. She's not able to, go and grab a snack without, you can't just tell her, hey, go get that, because on her way to go get that, she's going to get thrown off and forget what she was even going to get.
Squirrel.
And squirrel very much. Yeah. Yeah. Her attention to time, task, things, they're very little. She doesn't just like one thing, and she can't just sit and do one thing for very long, but maybe 2 minutes. She has very severe epileptic disorder, which right now we have under control, but that took a lot of research, and it was a very hard time for about 8 months. She had continuously weekly seizures. I had it marked to where it was a pattern of time, and every time we'd do an EEG, it would always be the 3 days that no seizure would happen.
Of course, when you take your car to the mechanic and it doesn't make the sound again, right?
Yes.
Always.
Yes.
Always.
Every time we did NICU stays overnight, and then we'd go home, and another seizure the day we got home. And I was like, oh my gosh, we could have caught it. So it took a long time to try and figure it out. Medication changes, up, down, weaning her off this one. At one point she was on 4 to 5 doses twice a day of all seizure medications, and now we're at a better place because I researched and I found different doctors, like an epileptologist who we now see, who has been tremendous and helped us pinpoint her seizures. She's not able to talk.
I was going to ask, is she nonverbal?
She's
Okay.
not. She's somewhat nonverbal. She tries to communicate with you, and she uses her hands or tries to do sign language. And sometimes it's hard because she'll be sitting there telling you something and you don't know. And she'll be yelling, and she says mom. Everybody is mom, unless you say, nope, that's dad. And she'll be like, oh, da. So she was diagnosed with speech apraxia, which
Okay.
is like a like where your brain is not sending the words to the mouth. So
Mhm.
she knows what she wants to say. She just has a hard time doing it.
She's getting
And
speech therapy, I assume?
she does get speech therapy, and that's
Okay.
something the articles did not mention, but we do get speech therapy, occupational therapy. Those 2 therapies are or once a month because I have to travel
Mm,
to
okay.
get that care. And physical therapy is twice a week because we go to a outside therapist here in Wyoming that has been great. So, but
Okay.
other therapies we were traveling, we're always in Utah.
Yeah, because you're in Wyoming, right?
Yes.
So, I assume that's a little more remote and you don't have as much
No, we do not have.
resources there, I can imagine.
No,
Yeah.
and that's the reasoning why Azalea was not in preschool or any of those is because we did not have a preschool that was able to take a
Mm.
child on an IEP that
Oh, wow.
was still not potty trained.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. There's been a lot of criticism over how high the judgment was, the award, the $951 million. It's, pushing 1 billion. It's a lot of money. But I don't think people realize how expensive around the clock medical care is. I know you've talked about needing to get a service dog, very expensive. Can you speak to that, those criticisms a bit?
yeah, those people don't realize how much it takes to take care of a child with medical complex like that high. I have been very thankful to have support that I have here in Wyoming, my family and my friends that have helped me, or my attorneys. They're fabulous. I love them. And so I've been able to do the things that I can for Azalea, not everything that I want. There's so many things that I want her to be able to have in life and different treatments, different options, but they all take money.
Yeah.
And I should never have been in a position like this. And so, somebody has to be held accountable to help me give her the life that she deserves, the life that she was robbed of. And, ultimately at the end of the day, that's what that money will do. So I don't,
And I'm
and,
sure it's a full-time job for you as well to take care of her. Did you
and
have to stop working or were you a stay-at-home mom prior?
I was 19, so I was just right out of high school.
Oh, wow, I didn't realize that. Okay.
I was working at the bus barn in the school district here, and I was planning on going to school to be like in criminal justice. But when I found out I was pregnant, I wasn't expecting to be. So, I kind of put things on hold. I was like, oh, I'll go to school in the fall after I have Azalea, and we'll go from there. But after I had Azalea, things changed. I,
Dramatically, I'm sure.
yeah, I was not able to just leave Azalea with anybody. I didn't leave my house for the first 9, 10 months that
Oh
we
my
were able
god.
to come home.
Yeah.
So things really changed. And since then, I've not been able to really maintain a job just because I'm not a reliable person at the moment because my life changes with Azalea. One minute
Yeah.
I'm going down to Utah, one minute she's at the hospital, and she needs more care than what others can
It's
do for her.
absolutely a full-time job. It is, and I know how
Yes.
overwhelming it is to be a new mom and leave the house with a healthy infant. That to me was so overwhelming the first few months, just to prepare everything and the timing of the naps and the feedings and, like, all the things. I can't
Yes.
imagine doing it with a medically fragile child. I've had to assist with those type of patients in the home setting, and they're maybe on a vent or G-tube feeds and they get in-home care, and I've had to assist with some of those getting to the doctor, and it is nothing short of, a miracle to get them from point A to point B sometimes. It's a lot.
Especially
It's a lot.
especially when our point A to point B was always 2.5 hours away because that's where we have to travel, so every
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. The accusation is that the nurses and the doctor failed to act on clear signs of distress when you were in labor, including maternal fever and elevated fetal heart rate. What was going on from your perspective as a, non-medical professional? I am not a labor and delivery nurse, so my knowledge is very limited in this. It'd be great if I had a co-host that was a labor and delivery nurse. That's side note. Um, but I know that, like, what about the D cells, the fetal heart tones, the strips? Were they monitoring you? Were they not? Or how were they monitoring you? Can you speak to some of that?
Yeah, they were monitoring me. The nurse who has to do the placement of the fetal heart rate strip or the monitor, she was not in, a lot of these things I did not find out until way later on during testimonies and throughout the court findings. We just knew that something was wrong and she didn't know how to place them. So I had blood clots coming out of me. I had meconium. I had, and still no talk of a C-section. There was my high-grade fever, and prior to falling asleep, I was awake. I was good, and I went to bed and woke up and had an oxygen mask on me. I had
Oh,
ice
wow.
packs on me. I had blankets, and I was like, and this
What
was,
happened? Yeah.
yeah, like, and they had sent my family home. They had said,
What?
everybody just needs to go. Like, she needs to get rest. She needs to,
Okay.
this is just too much for her. And this is way after everything, prior to this. They were like, she needs some sleep. And they sent everybody home or to the hotels because everybody traveled from Wyoming to get down to Utah.
Yeah.
And then they said, the baby's not coming tonight. The baby's not coming tonight. And about, I don't even know, hours later, they were rushing me in for an emergency C-section. And nobody was monitoring the strips. They were being neglected. They didn't care to
Okay.
watch them.
Can you tell me a little more about that? Like, how do you know they weren't watching the strips? And again, I'm not a labor and delivery nurse, so it's hard for me to have a lot of opinions on this. But I know all the labor and delivery nurses that listen to the podcast are going to want me to ask these questions.
I didn't know. Not at this time. I thought I was being cared for by professionals who knew what they were doing and who were watching everything. But in depositions and stuff, like the nurse, one of the new nurses was like, I felt neglected by my upper nurse, the head charge nurse. She goes, she would not help me. She said that because there was a conflict with the patient's mother and her, that she refused to care for that room. So she didn't help assist my room at all. Not once did I see the charge nurse come in that room. Not once did she help the nurse who was brand new, who was not supposed to be on the floor by herself. She didn't help her at all. And the new nurse was like, I didn't know how to read a fetal heart rate monitor. Like, I didn't know, and so she didn't pay attention to him. And at one point, the anesthesiologist came in when he was giving me my epidural, and he looked at me and he said, why we are not prepping you for a C-section right now, I don't know. He goes, but I'll be back to assist for a C-section at some point.
Oh my gosh. Was that kind of your first inkling that you needed it maybe to have a C-section?
Yeah, I had already been wanting one. I had already been wanting
Okay.
the baby to come out at this point.
Okay.
Like, I was begging them, like, can we just get her out of me? My
Right.
aunt and everybody was like, hey, we need to monitor some things, because my aunt she's in the medical field, and everybody just ignored what my family said. And they kept asking me, like, do you want them to leave? And I'm like, no, I don't want my
Yeah.
family to leave. Like, I just want this baby out. And they said, well, you're a new mom. Things kind of tend to go slow sometimes. But I
I mean,
hadn't
that's
even
true.
dilated past a 4 in the whole 36 hours that I was
Okay.
being pumped with Pitocin, and
Yeah.
all these things were going on. And yeah, so.
What was the conflict that you mentioned with the charge nurse? I don't know anything about that.
So when I was being admitted in, when we decided to go to this hospital, we were initially going in for like a second opinion to see if I had time to drive home. And they said, nope, this baby's coming. She's going to be here tonight. So everybody was so excited. Like, I was calling. And then, so here's another thing. Her dad and I, at this moment, we were not together. We were co-parenting. And now we are together. We have a beautiful relationship. We thrived in a co-parenting for so long that, we found our way there. And I couldn't be more thankful to have him by my side.
And you have another child together, right?
Yes, it's his daughter, but
Oh, okay.
it was
Okay.
from yep. But he will adopt her, and he is her dad. So
Mentioned a conflict with the charge nurse. I'm not aware of that. Can you tell us about that?
yes. So right when we went in to do my Like, we were debating on where we wanted to go. We were initially going to this hospital to Steward Medical for like a second opinion on if I should be able to travel home back to Wyoming. And when we got in there, they said, nope, this baby is coming tonight. Like, we're having a baby. And so I started calling everybody, and everybody was traveling from Wyoming down to Utah. And we were so excited, because like, especially in Wyoming, we don't have the best of medical care. So being in Utah, we felt, we were perfectly fine anyway.
Right.
And people in Wyoming get life flighted down to Utah.
Uh-huh.
So we were like, oh, this is the best. We're fine. We're going to have this baby tonight. We don't have to travel home. I was very sad that I couldn't travel home and be with my doctor. And so we got back there, and the charge nurse came in and started to give me an IV. Mind you, prior to this, I've never in my life had an issue with IVs, with shot, like anything. They've always been a one-time get them in and out. I've been good. She came in and she started to place the IV, and she couldn't get it. And she tried again. She could not get it. She tried again, and she blew my my vein. And she was going to go to try again. And my mom said, hey, can you get somebody in here who can place an IV? Like, you've tried and tried and tried, and you just can't do it. And the nurse said, well, are you going to be in here when your daughter delivers this baby? And my mom was like, yeah, I am. Are you? She goes, get somebody in here who can place the IV. And the nurse walked out. And that was the last time in my entire stay that I even saw the charge nurse. Like, she did not attend anything.
Okay. So there were 2 nurses, but is this from 2 different shifts? That's a question I've gotten a lot.
Yes.
That
So
cared for you?
multiple people were just new. They weren't trained. She was filling in for a charge nurse. Yeah, there was multiple errors there. And those would be more like, if you guys, I'm not very medical, they were short-staffed. They had attempted to
Of
call
course.
people in, and there were people not answering. And, so there was a lot of errors in their policies.
So what was, to your knowledge, the nurses that cared for you? What was their level of experience, or how long had they been on the job? How new of a nurse were they?
When we found, like, from finding out throughout court, I found out that they're brand new, but to me, they were just being supportive. Like, tell me everything was good, moving me in positions, trying to get me to dilate, doing, I did not know. They had no idea what they were not doing. They didn't know
Brand
them.
new, though, as far as like they just were hired, or they were brand new nurses? Do you know if they got an orientation? Were they done with that?
They weren't signed off on orientation. I think they had just gotten signed off, but everything after I had Azalea, they were signed off on.
After.
100%. Everything they were good.
Because you said that one of them said that they couldn't read. They didn't know how to read a strip. And I mean, that's labor and delivery 101.
Right. And that,
I feel like, how could you be there and not know that? Is that not day one?
And she asked for help, but that's when the other nurse refused to help her.
The charge nurse, or whoever was filling in for the charge nurse. Okay. Yeah. I know all the nurses that listen to the podcast, they're going to want to know these things. And it probably seems like I'm fixating on it, but they're going to want to know all these things. So presumably, is it safe to say, and you know what, let me tell the audience out there, I haven't seen these nurses or the physician's name anywhere. There is very little information out there. I've tried to research it. So I have not been able to look at the status of their license or anything like that. But to your understanding, were they like fresh out of school? Do you know? Had they just been hired?
They had just been hired, I think, just recently. I was one of their first patients, one of them.
Jeez. Okay.
Those are more questions that my attorneys would be able to more answer. Yeah, they weren't what I thought. They shouldn't have been handling, especially in an emergency. There were clear signs for hours, for like up to 15 hours, when the fetal heart strip started showing signs of aphasia or asphyxia. And then it got to the point where it was constant errors that were just being ignored and ignored and ignored for hours. And
how high did your fever get?
It was 103.4.
And how high was the fetal heart rate? Do you know?
I don't know the exact numbers.
That's okay. Let's talk about the Pitocin, because this is a big area that everyone is fixated on. Everyone wants to know what the Pitocin dosage was. Was it excessive? Did it go too long? So I looked it up because Pitocin is not something I have ever given in pediatrics. And according to the literature out there, the recommendation is a max dose of 20 to 30 milliunits per hour. Some providers will go a little higher than that, and it can run for over 24 hours. What is your understanding of what they gave you?
So my understanding is that you're not to want it higher than 20 if there's no contracting, if the contractions are too close.
Okay.
And they had me at continuous hours of 24 units for hours, and my contractions were so close together that there was just no time in between.
Okay.
And I was not dilating at all for
Okay.
36 hours. And, they turned it off for maybe an hour, but then it would go right back up to the 24 units.
Okay. So they let it run for 36 hours with one break?
No, there
that-
was a few breaks. There
Okay.
were, I don't know the extent of all that. I just know that there were continuous hours. My attorneys looked over the medical records more
Sure.
than I ever did, or more than I would even understand.
Well, and we wouldn't expect you to. And
Mhm.
I'm sorry to be a stickler for details.
No,
just-
you're okay.
I know they're going to want to know, and they're going to get mad at me if I don't ask. So it seems like there's a lot of autonomy in labor and delivery from a nursing perspective. Nurses can, titrate meds, Pitocin, just based on order sets from providers. I don't know. It'll be up to you guys out there listening to tell me if this is inappropriate or not, in your opinion. But what about the OBGYN? Because there's been a lot of talk about the nurses notifying him of your status at certain points, and that he allegedly went back to sleep in the on-call room. Can you tell us about that?
And so that's something else at the time I didn't know. I had no
Right.
idea none of that was going on, and all these nurses were deposed. All of them did testimonies. For the last 6 years, my attorneys have been finding all these things. And also the doctor was a girl. She was a female.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. I should not have assumed it was a man. My bad.
yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
She didn't really have any interaction with my room but one time, and prior to coming in to do the C-section. But, when the nurse leaned over to me really on the early mornings of October 14th, she said, "Hey, you're going in for an emergency C-section. Like, there's no question. This has to happen right now." So she goes, "Call your family, get them here." So I got on my phone because I was alone. They had sent everybody home
Oh my gosh.
13 hours, 8 hours ago. Everybody was going home back to the hotel. And so I was calling everybody at 3:30 in the morning and calling and calling. My grandma finally answered. They got there. 5 minutes, they were there. My grandma was gowned out, ready to go, ready to get into she was going to be in there for my C-section. We were ready, and yet we were still waiting. I was ready. I was prepped. The anesthesiologist was there waiting. Everybody was just waiting.
Why?
And
Do you
finally,
know?
because the doctor was sleeping. I did not know that then, but it was
Yeah.
a whole hour and couple minutes later that the doctor finally came in the room and took me back for my emergency C-section that was supposed to happen 15 hours ago. The ignoring of everything just prolonged the emergency C-section for so long.
Okay. So how long were you in labor before the C-section, roughly?
36 hours, 35.
Okay. And so were you told that you're going to have the emergency C-section by the doctor?
No, by the nurses.
Okay. Cuz he would have been the one deciding that. So he would have been, I'm trying to piece it all together. Like, presumably he would have been awake and say, okay, let's prep her for an emergency C-section. And then
But
he
it was
went back
because of
to
my
sleep.
vitals and everything. She was not there for all those. She was not by my
I
bedside.
keep saying C.
I know.
Saying he.
And I'm
Sorry.
like, she.
Sorry.
No, she was not attending my bedside at all. And so when they told me about this C-section, it was because, I kept taking the oxygen off my face and they kept telling me, hey, you need to keep that on. That's very vital for you and your baby. And I didn't know, like, I'm 19. I didn't know the first thing. And how my doctor had told me was, hey, you're going to come in, we're going to induce you, we're going to get the baby out, and that's it,
Right.
in Wyoming. And that's
Right.
what I was going for, I was just scared, terrified. I had no idea what was really going on, or do I remember? Because, at one time they were asking me if I wanted fentanyl for a pain
Okay.
reliever because they wouldn't give me my epidural until I got to a 4-centimeter, which that took forever. And then, I never went past a 4-centimeter for hours. I was there forever. Nobody did the proper examinations of me.
So how did you find out about the doctor sleeping?
Through a testimony by the nurses.
And what was their testimony regarding that?
I was not sitting in on those.
Okay. But
So,
presumably they said that they went and
they did
told.
say they just didn't wake her up. She wouldn't wake up. She was, and they deposed her as well. And she said that she felt comfortable going to sleep because
But
she
they
had
tried. They
the
went.
monitor on her phone, but she wasn't even looking at the monitor.
Okay. I'm just thinking from a nursing perspective, because here's the difference between some, not all, but between some new grad nurses and experienced nurses. The new grad nurse is going to go and tell the doctor, hey, this is happening, or hey, she's prepped, she's ready to go, and then let it be and just wait for the doctor. And that's it. Because they think they did their due diligence in informing them. Whereas the experienced nurse is going to tell the doctor, and then if 10, 15 minutes have gone by and the doctor is nowhere to be found, they're going to be right back in that doctor's face doing it again. And then they're going to go above that doctor to the attending or the medical director if they need to,
And that's what should have happened. Somebody should have been there to do that, but nobody did that.
At what point did you know that something was wrong with your daughter?
Wrong with her? I don't really know because it was so unreal.
Yeah.
Like it was just so crazy that this was happening. My mind has put a block on a really big portion of it,
Of course, I get that. Yeah.
And so when they wheeled me back for my C-section, I remember my grandma, they started cutting me open and doing all this and everything was good, it was all just whatever. And nothing seemed like it was that big of a deal.
Okay.
And the doctor wasn't too concerned or nothing, and then all of a sudden they're tugging and tugging and tugging and tugging. And I remember my grandma just started freaking out saying, what is wrong with her? Like, why is she blue? She's not breathing. And I don't know, I don't remember anything after that point. I remember people frantically running around me, freaking out, and a nurse yelling, like saying something to the doctor about, oh, do I need to count these? I vaguely remember those things. And then I remember, being rolled back to the recovery room and waiting for the pediatrician to come in there and tell me what was going on and what was happening because I hadn't even seen Azalea. My grandma, everybody was freaking out and I had no idea what was going on.
Do you happen to know what her APGAR scores were?
Oh, not right off the top of my head.
That's okay.
I do have them, but I know that they were very low, like 1 and not quote me, but like I think like 1 and 4.
Wow. Okay.
1, 3, and 4, 1, 4, and 5. They're very low.
Okay. You filed the lawsuit in 2021, I believe, roughly 1.5 years afterwards. What made you decide to do it then?
That's when the filing went into effect. I have had my attorneys for a week after she was born.
Okay. Okay.
My grandpa, who is from Elko, Nevada, he found our attorneys. He knew them from longtime friends when she came down to meet us while Azalea was in the NICU, and they started requesting medical records, and they started, because my grandpa was like, things are not going right.
Something's not right.
Something is not right. And at one point after I had Azalea, the nurses came in and like I wasn't able to leave the hospital for 3 days after I had Azalea. So I was there. And after I had her a couple hours, like it was either the next day at one point, the nurses came in and told me that there was a way for me to leave. And I was like, oh, great. Like I was all by myself because everybody was at primaries visiting Azalea, being with Azalea, because I didn't know if she was going to live. I wanted somebody to be with her, somebody to have a memory of her, because I was at that point not able to. And then I was on narcotics, pain pills,
Right.
I was very not coherent. And so the nurse said, you can sign this paper and you can go and be with your daughter. And I was
Was
so
it an
excited.
AMA, against medical advice paper?
Yeah.
Were you
Yes.
asking to leave prior to that?
Not really. I wanted to leave and be with my daughter. I was, under
Sure.
so much. I just wanted to leave. I wanted to go. There was times where my mom was trying to get me escorted out of there, but I didn't need any extra help. And,
So
there
so
was a
your
time,
mom was trying to get you to be discharged?
not by them, but legally, because things were just not going right after I had Azalea. They
Okay.
wouldn't give me my pain medication on time. They wouldn't, they weren't attending my room at all. They weren't. And at one point, my grandma was videoing, and the nurse yelled at my grandma and said, I'm not giving your granddaughter her medication until you put that camera down and turn it off. And to which at that point I started begging my grandma. I was like, Grandma, please turn the camera off. Like, I just want my pain. Like, I am in pain.
Ugh.
It was horrible, the amount of pain that I was in. My second labor was not like that at
Yeah.
all. But at the time when they were giving me this paper, I called my aunt and I said, hey, and prior to this, they had told me that I had to take a bowel movement to leave.
Mhm.
And so they came in and they told me, like, hey, there's another way you could leave. You just have to sign this and then you can leave. Oh, so I called my aunt and I said, Auntie, I can leave. Like, come get me. I'm coming. I'm going to go be with Azalea. Like,
Yeah.
I was so excited. And she goes, what do you mean you can leave? And I was like, they gave me this paper. I can sign it and go. And she goes, no, I'll be right there. I'm going to read that paper. And she came and she read the paper and she said, Anyssa, no, you're not signing this. Like, there's no way you're signing this at all. And that's exactly what it was. It was to release, liability or,
Liability. Yeah.
yeah. And so I didn't end up signing that. And I was there until I was able to take a bowel movement 3 days later.
For 6 days?
Three.
Or
Three.
3 total you were there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Prior, like after I had her.
Yeah.
So for 6 days, yes. I was there for 6 days.
Okay. All right.
And
I mean, I
yeah.
will say from a nursing perspective, and this is not to diminish anything that you went through, but as a nurse, when you are aware that they've brought in an attorney while still hospitalized and that they're recording, that's such a hard position
Oh,
to
we
be
didn't have
in.
an attorney though.
Oh, they didn't. I thought you
No,
said
not
that
at this
they.
time. No, not at
Okay.
this point. No,
Okay.
no, no, no. No, no, no.
Okay.
This point, we didn't have an attorney until like a week after Azalea was admitted into the
Oh,
NICU.
gotcha. Okay. The
Right.
recording even though is very tough to be part of the team caring when you know they're recording you potentially for libel purposes. And it's
But it was
hard
just
to
because of
not get.
everything else that was
No,
going
I
on.
understand.
Yeah.
I do, and obviously they did not handle that well to threaten to withhold pain medicine. That's obviously not appropriate, but I just know from a nurse's perspective, it's like, I do not wanna go in that room. They automatically think I'm doing something wrong, they're gonna record me, they're gonna misconstrue it, use it against me. It's a tough position to be in,
Right.
but they obviously could have navigated that
But
better.
what they were doing was wrong. Like,
Yeah.
they were arguing with my mom and them in the hallway. My mom was hiding in a linen closet at one point from a nurse because of their behavior and the way that they portrayed themselves. It wasn't just like we were just videoing them, just, they were doing things that we didn't understand at the time. Now we know, like, they weren't trained. They were trying to cover their own backs, they were trying to hide what they were doing.
Yeah. I
And
I
at
I
one point a nurse told my grandma, like, there's not things that are good happening here. She goes, take my number.
Really?
And yeah. And so it was a crazy, and my grandma's a very, like, if she sees something not happening, she's going to definitely record that, because when they hadn't came in for 12 hours to give me my medication, and my aunt had written on the board times of when to come in, when to give me that medication. and then 4 hours later come in and give her this medication. She had put up a chart for the nurses to follow, yet the nurses weren't following it.
That's also a tough one as a nurse because patients do not get to dictate that. And most pain medications are ordered what we call PRN as needed. So that doesn't mean that they're going to come in every 4 hours or whatever and give it to you. It's only if you need it and you ask for it or exhibit signs of being in pain that they will give it to you. It's not an automatic.
But they ignored my pain. They
You
didn't
asked for
care
it and
about
they didn't
I
give it.
had. Yep,
Yeah,
and
that's
they wouldn't,
inappropriate.
but then they did, and it'd be in high dosages.
Oh, like
Like
a wrong
15.
dose
Yeah, I was on 15 milligrams
of
every 4 hours at some points,
what?
Percocet,
Okay.
which
Okay.
that was normal. But I wasn't on that high of a dose when I had my second. I was on a very low dose.
Yeah. I will say this hospital has a terrible reputation. I have
And I didn't
lost
know that.
count. Well, why would you? You don't live there.
Yeah,
You
no.
went to the
Like, they
hospital
have a
that you
nickname?
were taken to. Yeah, it's called Death Valley.
Yeah, I
It's their
cried my eyes
nickname.
out when I found that out. I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's not
Yeah.
even like, how do you get a?" I thought we had a bad hospital here in Wyoming.
You may have been better off in Wyoming, which is
I
sad.
absolutely would have been better off in Wyoming.
Yeah. No, I've heard from countless people saying it's well known if you live in that area,
Mhm.
that you don't go there. You don't go there. And also, I mean, Utah does have some really good healthcare. It's
They
got
do.
Intermountain and they've got some good things, but
University of Utah is amazing,
yeah.
I
But also, aren't they ranked like 50 out of 50 in women's health?
I think they really
Something
are.
like that. Don't quote me, but something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
I After I had her, I ended up being like, my stitches ended up coming out a week later too. So during this, I was at the primaries, and my body ended up getting an infection from the incisions, and I was admitted back to the University of Utah, though, because there was just no way I was going back to that hospital. At University of Utah, I was able to roll down the little ramp and be at primaries next to my daughter.
Right. Okay. The Judge Patrick Coram, made a wild statement when awarding the judgment. In part, he said, quote, "This was the most dangerous place on the planet to give birth. She would have been better off delivering in a gas station bathroom or a hut in Africa." And some people are outraged at his choice of verbiage. But what was your reaction hearing that?
I felt like just hurt, like hurt that I actually had to experience that, because now looking back on it and realizing like everything that I really went through and how it really went, I'm like, that was terrifying for me, and I had no idea. And so to hear him say like I would have been better off having her in a gas bathroom of a gas station, I was like,
Yeah.
that's I would have been better having her driving home on the side of the road for 2.5 hours, or anything, and I don't think that his verbiage of having her in Africa in a hut, was meant to be taken in the way that some are taking it. I think
Yeah.
he was just so angry at
On your
the
behalf.
on yes, and at one point in his verdict he said, there's a point, I thought there were so many policies and laws and stipulations in effect that this could be prevented, that this should never have happened and never have gone on for the hours that it did. And he said he was quite kind of like just appalled that it could even get to this extent.
Yeah.
And so when I heard that, I was thinking they probably do have better care over in Africa. I would have been better there, instead of here in Utah.
Yeah. To your knowledge, did anything happen to the nurses or the physician? Were any of their licenses reported? Were they terminated? Anything?
To my knowledge, no, nothing ever happened. In fact, they continued to work for Steward Medical for some time. I don't think for very long, until Steward sold. But I do know that the doctor practices in a different state, and I'm sure that the nurses continue to be nurses in Utah somewhere.
Okay. And the lawsuit, just so everybody knows, it was against Steward Health, right? It was not
Yes.
against the physician
No.
specifically. Will there be any other future lawsuits around this?
I don't I don't know about that.
Okay. Okay.
No. I don't know.
Well, Steward Health's behavior throughout this process has been a little suspect, right? They filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy, I believe, in May, right? In the middle of the litigation, and they owe creditors millions of dollars. At one point, their attorneys even requested to be removed from the case because they were not being paid. And the hospital eventually sold to Holy Cross Hospital West Valley. Do you think that this was all a plan to get out of having to pay this judgment preemptively?
I absolutely do. Because, we have been going through this with them for this long. It has been one delay after another. We had trial dates set for a year and a half before this. We were supposed to have a trial long before this, but we went to mediation, we sat down with them, we talked to them, we went back and forth. They knew that they were wrong, but they degraded it. Like, they disrespected me and my family and my daughter in a very high. They only offered an amount to pay her past medical record, her past bills. And to me, that's not fair. You guys took her whole entire life. I should never have had to encounter what I did, yet somebody has to be held accountable, and so we walked away from that. We talked again, they would take long to respond to us, then they'd respond to us, and then we'd get ready for trial, and then they'd be like, oh, it doesn't work out, we have another trial at this time, so we need to ask the judge to prolong it. And the judge would be like, okay, yeah, here, let's prolong it again. And I was like, and at that point, I'm like, we've been in this battle for this long. What is another year? What's another 2 years, So at the end of the day, they could award this and I still wouldn't get it. So come to last year, we finally set the August date, and they said, okay, well, we might have to bump it up to next year, which would be 2026. And the judge was like, no, like, if we can get it in August, this is August. It's been long enough. Like, and so then all of a sudden they put in a motion to withdraw from the case because they're no longer being talked to. The attorneys aren't being able to talk to Steward, and they stopped talking to their attorneys in November, December, January, February, March, April, May was when they put in that they had no communication.
Wow. So
that's 6 months that they have had no communication, yet they're just now telling. So I think, that was a big way of them, just pushing it to the side.
They basically stopped participating in the case. It's crazy, actually.
It is. And if you do research on the CEO of the company, there are different claims out there that right before he put them in bankruptcy, he dispersed of money elsewhere before he put them. And this was, prior to my case ongoing. And they knew about our case. They've known about all these cases that they have against them. And they still, they don't care at all. And that's not right on them at all.
Yeah. You have not seen a dime of this money yet.
No, not one single penny. No.
Do you think that you will at some point?
I hope that I do. Yeah, I hope that I do because it's been hard, so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now for your Enema of the Week.
This week's Enema of the Week award is brought to you, as always, by Happy Bum Co., a leader in at-home enema solutions. As a nurse, I talk a lot about gut health with patients, and one thing that doesn't get talked about nearly enough is how powerful detoxification can be for your overall health, your energy, your mood, even your skin. That's why I'm genuinely impressed with Happy Bum Co. Happy Bum Co. makes at-home enema kits and gut health products that are simple, safe, and effective. And before you cringe at the word enema, hear me out. These aren't the scary clinical versions that you're picturing in your mind. Their kits are beautifully designed, reusable, and made from medical-grade materials. They're built to support gentle cleansing and detox right from the comfort of your own home. Here's what I love the most. You're in control. You don't have to wait for the constipation to get so bad that you end up in the ER. And you don't have to rely on harsh laxatives that can leave you feeling drained. With Happy Bum Co., you can support your digestion naturally, reset your gut when you're feeling sluggish, and even enhance wellness practices. Enemas are evidence-based and have been safely used for centuries. Happy Bum Co. just takes the guesswork out of it by providing clear instructions, starter kits, even wellness blends to tailor your cleanse to your needs. So if you've been curious about trying enemas, or if you're looking for a gentle way to support your gut health, I can't recommend Happy Bum Co. enough. Head to happybumco.com and use code NURSESUNCORKED for 15% off your first bundle. Give your body the reset it deserves. Trust me, your gut will thank you. happybumco.com. This week's Enema of the Week award goes to my former co-host here on the podcast. Sadly, this is not something I could have ever predicted or foreseen, and I'm really sad that it has come to this, but there is no one more deserving of it this week. You may have seen some embarrassing online drama playing out on social media recently that I absolutely loathe. But the fact of the matter is that my former co-host illegally hacked into the Nurses Uncorked social media meta accounts and also to the Nurses Uncorked emails. She immediately changed the passwords, locked me out, even blocked me. I have no way of accessing it. This is a huge security concern because she has accessed the email, and that's the recovery email for all the other programs and platforms. So she could have very well compromised those, and I have no way of assessing the damage. This is not rumor or conjecture. She quite literally admitted to doing this on a Facebook Live. I have posted that video. It is on my page. You can go see it for yourself. And had the audacity to do the Facebook Live from the Nurses Uncorked Facebook account that she had just hacked. It was, I can only assume, a huge lapse in judgment on her part, because this is absolutely a crime. It's not just a civil liability that she can be sued for. It is an actual criminal offense. Hackers are charged with things like identity theft, wire fraud, computer fraud and abuse, unauthorized access to computer systems, etc. They can be sued for damages including financial loss, emotional distress, reputational harm, and a whole lot more. So this week's Enema of the Week award goes to my former podcast co-host, because she is proudly, freely admitting to illegally hacking a podcast that she has legally signed off on removing herself from months ago, and is proud of it. One way you can help is reporting the illegal hacking to Meta. Social media platforms and entities absolutely want to be aware of any illegal activity that is potentially happening on their platforms. So if enough people can go to the Nurses Uncorked Instagram and Facebook accounts pages and report it specifically for illegal hacking by @Nurse Jessica Sites, I think that will get their attention. This is not about me being vengeful. This is absolutely a crime. She's not trying to cover it up. It is out there. She's loud and proud about it. Again, the video is on my social media pages. It's really disheartening to know that she's doing everything in her power to sabotage a podcast that is ultimately her legacy, right? 99 episodes, 2 years of her life. This is also a big part of her own legacy, and she is doing everything in her power to see it crash and burn, allegedly. So for everyone that has been out there asking what they can do to help, this is what you can do to help right now. Report the illegal hacking that she is absolutely admitting to and is proud of from the platform that she legally has no rights to. All right, enough of that. Let's get back into the episode. What was it like hearing the verdict? I mean, I'm sure that number, 951 million, was beyond what you had ever thought could happen. What was that like?
Yeah. It was beyond even what we had asked for.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm sure.
and so hearing that, we were like, oh my gosh. And you know, in the state of Utah, there's statutes, so we will only be able to receive punitive damages.
Of what amount?
And of the 951.
No, but is there a cap on the punitive Or do you know what that amount is?
Pain and suffering. There's a cap on the pain and suffering.
How much is it?
$450,000.
That's
Split
it?
between the three of us.
Okay.
And the
So
rest
that's all that you can hope to get?
is about half of the 951.
Oh, wait, million or thousand?
Yes, million.
Oh, I thought you said thousand. Okay.
No,
Okay.
because of the cap, though, they deduct off like 400 million off of that 900 million.
Okay. That's still good though. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
400 million.
right.
Okay.
And that was still more than what we were asking for.
So what was that like in that moment,
And
hearing the verdict, the judgment?
it was crazy. And the judge, said like he was reluctant to even give more because that he doesn't even feel like he gave what this case is actually worth. In depositions of our expert witnesses, the doctors and the nurses have said they have read over a bunch of medical malpractice cases when they have a tremendous amount of experience. And they said that Azalee's case was in the top 5 of being the worst medical malpractice case that they have ever been on, and the judge said the same thing. He has heard some crazy things and been in his field for 25 years. And this was by far the worst case that he has ever had across his desk.
Wow. And that speaks volumes. I just can't imagine being there in the courtroom and hearing that number with your attorneys. That must have been like such a moment of validation.
It was. I cried. It was. I felt like there's a little accountability. They know now. Like the severity of it, because it was so horrible. Like truly in that moment that, and the judge said that there will never be another moment that sound like in his courtroom. Like that was the most rawest that it will ever be, because there was all those testimonies and he was kind of upset that we didn't have a jury.
Okay, so is that a bench trial? Is that what that's? I believe
they called it, I think, a prove-up hearing.
A what?
I think a bench trial. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, I didn't realize there wasn't a jury. How long was the trial?
3 days.
Oh, that's not even that long. Okay, all right.
It was 3 days, and then it took him a day and a half to get his judgment.
Okay.
And there wasn't a jury because they didn't show up.
Who didn't show up?
The defense.
Oh, Steward.
Steward.
Health. Okay.
And
so
that's
it was just their attorneys there, basically.
No, they had nobody.
Wait, what?
There was absolutely nobody.
There were. So, okay, so I knew the attorneys requested to be removed. Were they actually removed?
Yes, and Steward never gained any other counsel. So it was literally they were not there. They were not present at all.
I'm so confused. Can you even have a trial with only one side there?
With a prove-up hearing, yes.
Prove-up?
It was just a trial between... Okay. It's kind of like a trial between the judge and the courthouse.
So there was no one like cross-examining?
Nope. Everybody did everything on our end. We had our witnesses. We had our doctors. We had our test.
And they had no witnesses. They had no one testify on. This is insane. I had no idea. Oh my gosh. Okay. I guess I assumed that the attorneys requested to be removed, and that I assumed that the judge said no because we're too far in. You need, and that it went forward.
He wanted to, but he was put in a position where he had no choice, because he said, how can you represent somebody who isn't even responding to you?
It's true.
And they quit paying their attorneys. And, he said if it would have been just the money and they quit paying them, I would have said, no, too bad. But they quit responding for months.
Yeah, even different. Yeah, even worse. Oh my gosh, this is such a crazy, unique case. There have been some people that have had some criticisms saying that Azaylee looks fine, that she looks normal in the pictures that you've posted, and she's beautiful. She's absolutely beautiful. That she doesn't appear to have any disabilities, and they think that, I don't know what they think, that this is some sort of a scam, but obviously the judge agreed with you. What do you have to say to those people?
they don't have to live in my life. They don't have to endure what I have to endure with her. They don't have to change things. People don't have to do what I do. They don't have to research and try to make things better, try to, but I have always been that way. Like, one diagnosis, I'll research, I'll try to correct it. I'll do whatever I need to do to help her thrive. Traveling to Utah, not many people are able to do that. But the most help that she deserves, everything I've done is what she deserves. And she looks and she may appear normal, but I've also had people, when I'm out in public, stare at me because she's running off, taking off, trying to attack me and hitting me in my face and pulling my hair and, and trying to run in the middle of the street, not paying attention to cars coming in, almost being hit by cars. Us having to leave grocery stores because she's trying to throw things off the shelf or freak out and just sit in the middle of the aisles. She's a very, very active child. She likes to be going all the time. So people don't realize, that she's sitting in the back of the car mad because we're driving to Utah, trying to attack her sister and pull her sister's hair or bang her head or throw her shoes at me or throw her tablets at me or, anything, unbuckle her car seat. She can unbuckle her car seat. So then she gets out and she's trying to drive. She's opened the car door while we're on the interstate.
Oh my gosh.
She gets her behavior's very sporadic, and you never know. One morning she could wake up and be in the best mood and you could do everything. The next couple hours might be really hard. She's not able to get herself dressed by herself. She gets up in the middle of the night and wanders outside of the house. She unlocks the doors. She likes to just up and leave. She doesn't feel pain the same way as us. I never know when she's sick. She doesn't show signs unless she has a seizure or, or something else is going on. Like if she's being very overly aggressive, I'm like, oh, she might be sick.
Mm-hmm.
But like at one instance, she was bleeding over here on her side of her face. And I'm like, where is this blood coming from? And I'm wiping it and I'm doing all this. And, she's had tubes put in her ears because of her infections. But there was just blood. And so I'm like, and I wiped it. And then a couple hours later, there was blood again. And she's not like showing any signs that she's injured or hurt or anything. So I took her to the hospital here and they said that she had a ruptured eardrum. And the doctor said, do you want to say hi?
Is this her?
This is.
Oh my goodness.
This is getting home from school.
Miss Azaylee, hello.
What do you want? Yours what? What? Your tablet? Yeah. Oh, Mom charged it. Do you want to say hi? Come say hi.
Hi.
Don't touch though. You can say hi. No, did you have a good day at school?
She's so cute. Hi, Azaylee.
Did you?
Get you a bowl of cereal.
Oh, how about ramen noodles? You want to sit on Mom's lap? Okay.
I love it. Well, I know you've been chronicling her journey, your family's journey on TikTok. Tell everybody where they can follow along.
They can, I have one right now on Facebook and TikTok under Azalee's journey. No, don't touch. Okay. And I just eventually want to find a platform or where to tell our story to. No, please, no, we're not gonna. No, yours? You want your tablet? You want your computer? Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah, that's what you want. Go and tell Dad that you need to go outside in the garage. Tell Dad to come here. It's outside in the garage somewhere. I don't know.
She's like, they're talking about me. I'm going to go in there.
She's funny, she's funny. But she takes medicine twice a day, and that is a chore in itself. Sometimes we have to get random people to give it to her.
Well, I was going to say, because you said that you don't know when she's sick. So the nurse in me is like, please take a daily temperature. But I'm sure that's much easier said than done,
Right. And at one point I did
Okay.
I have a whole medical area where I have a proxometer in there, little thing to tell her oxygen, everything, just because I'd never know. Like, that doctor said her eardrum was ruptured. That's why it was bleeding like it was. She didn't feel it, you know?
Yeah.
He said that we would have been crying and in pain.
She does feel some pain, right? She doesn't have, I forget what it's called, that crazy rare disease where you don't feel any pain.
She does feel it, kind of. You know,
Okay.
that's never been ruled out. That's something that I do want to figure out, because she doesn't feel internal pain. She doesn't feel, you know, she's jumped off the sidewalk onto her bare knees and been fine.
Yikes.
And then her knees were black and blue.
Wow.
And she was fine.
Well, I will link in the show notes to your Facebook and your TikTok. Is there anywhere else that people can follow along with your
Not at
journey?
the moment, no.
Okay.
No.
Is there anything else that you want to share with people? Because this case truly has captured just huge attention nationwide.
Yeah, it's been overwhelming the last couple days, or the
I'll
last
bet.
week. And, like, I've had people message me and ask me different questions, or, like, that they have similar stories, you know, or ask me questions as if I'm the doctor, if I know everything. Like,
Right. Well, like I did, asking you
yeah,
all the medical
right, yeah.
questions. I'm
You know,
sorry.
like, no, you're good. Like, you know, my attorneys practiced that case for the last 6 years. You know, they know the ins and out. They could probably, one of my attorneys could answer the fetal heart rate monitor like the back of his hand. You know, he knows those questions. It's all in records. Everything is right there. And that's the thing. The judge saw all the evidence, you know.
Yeah.
Everything was provided, and with testimonies. That's the one thing, you know, I was not alone, and I don't want others to feel like they are alone.
Yeah.
And, you know, so there's something that has to be done, I feel like, in a way, because not just for my daughter, but for everybody else who's wronged.
Yeah.
And yeah, so, because, you know, like, I have to look at my daughter for the rest of her life and think of, like, what she could have been. She's an amazing and smart little girl, but there's so much more that she could have had. And so
Yeah.
I just don't want others to feel alone, or, you know, because HIE, the diagnosis that she has, is
Uh-huh.
a very wide amount of things can happen in that. You know, there's
Right.
so many different things that come with it, and questions. When I did you have to just research and,
Yeah.
you know, because that's the only way you can get through it. So,
Well, I hope that you and your family get what you deserve, what you were awarded. I hope that you see justice ultimately in this, and that Steward Health is held accountable.
thank you, and I appreciate
Yeah.
it. Thank you for reaching out to me.
Thank you for coming on the podcast and sharing your
Yes.
story. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
That's it for this episode of Nurses Uncorked. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider becoming a patron. There is a link in the show notes. And please sign up for automatic downloads no matter where you listen to podcasts. That goes a long way in helping out. And share Nurses Uncorked with your coworkers and your friends. Until next time, keep advocating, keep learning, and don't let the bastards grind you down. I'm Nurse Erica, and I thank you for listening.